Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Christian Colabelli here, product manager for Eventide, and I am honored and so elated to bring you Living Color, the legendary band. Um, these guys are just groundbreaking. They're so ahead of their time, so criminally underrated, and just amazing guys and just amazing players. So I'm just gonna go around and have everyone introduce themselves. So start with Vernon.
Hey, hey, I'm Vernon Reid, play guitar and all that stuff.
Awesome. Corey.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Corey Glover in the Great White North, and how you doing?
Cool. Doug.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Doug Wimbish, and welcome to a world of wonder.
Perfect voice for that, man. And Will, how about you?
Hello, everybody. Will Calhoun here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So I'm just gonna take a trip down memory lane real quick. And,
You almost said memory. Watch it, baby.
dude, memory lane. The first time I was introduced to Living Color, I was a freshman in high school. I come from an artistic high school. We had a really good theater department. Anne Hathaway graduated a year ahead of me. And this guy in my band, Miguel Gondelman, he was the son of this famous Brazilian saxophone. Yeah,
Leo. You son of Leo, yeah.
Yep, there you go. So Leo, obviously, is
Wow, Leo's son. Wow.
He's bad too. He's a bad sax player too, man.
That's what I was gonna say. He ended up playing on the Tonight Show band, and he's killing it right now. He's playing with like Timberlake, and he's in that LA scene, so he's kind of playing with everyone. He and I were in the same ensemble and same band. We played in like a jazz band and the regular band. And I had been playing sax for 9 years at that point and guitar for 4, I believe. And I was so heavily into Jimi Hendrix. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to make you a mixtape. So I'm like, okay, cool. And this is the time where CDs and cassettes were kind of like
competing.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of the cassette where was waning and the CD was becoming strong. So he makes me this cassette of all these rare Hendrix tunes, like Angel Acoustic, and you can hear like Jimmy answer the phone, and like 1983 and Merman Shall I Turn to Be, and then there's some awesome covers on this as well. There's Jeff Beck and Seal, and Jeff Beck's being Jeff Beck, and Seal's doing his thing, and then of course it's Living Color, Crosstown Traffic, and he also put on Pride and Love Rears Its Ugly Head on this tape.
Right.
And I remember listening. I take it home and I'm listening and I'm like, dude, what is going on here? I had never heard of you guys. I mean, at that point I was listening, like I said, to like Hendrix, maybe some Slash, some Van Halen, some Soundgarden. And I hear this kind of melding of everything. And I'm like, Miguel, who are these guys? And he's like, Living Color, man. And he gives me like the lowdown on you guys. And I end up having my mom go take me to Sam Goody when there were still like CD stores. And so I show up and I go to the rack, and there's the only record in the rack left is Time's Up. So I end up getting it, and I realize that Pride and Love Rears Its Ugly Head are on that, on that record. And I end up taking it and putting it into my CD player when I got home, which is a mix of a cassette and a CD. And the first track, I didn't know Bad Brains at the time, but Time's Up, I wasn't hip to that yet. I remember playing it, and I was like, what is going on? And when you hit that whammy, like pre-solo before the Street Riot thing, I was like, dude, I need to get it. I was playing like a Les Paul too. It was like a thin body Les Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Mom, Dad, please, for Christmas, if you can, get me a guitar with a whammy on it. And Rondo Music was going out of business, and they had a PV Wolfgang, and they ended up, after like 6 months, getting it. And dude, I sat there and I tried fruitlessly to like play those solos, and it really changed my guitar playing. It was such just such a vocal statement. I'd never heard playing like that before. And that kind of goes across the board. Like, you know, I know, Doug, you weren't in the band yet, but obviously on the next record, it's just incredible stuff. Like you hear the first note of the bass come in on that and you're like, holy shit. Like you're just floored. It's so punchy. And that next record is so heavy. And man, it was life-changing for me. And I know it's the 30th year anniversary of Time's Up right now. And what I think is really kind of ironic and kind of tragic is all the issues that you're talking about on that record. And I know, Vernon, we've talked about some of the technological overload and all this information,
Yeah.
you know, being broadcast into your face. We've talked about that before, but the issues you're talking about on Time's Up, and obviously all your records, are still incredibly pertinent today to a infuriating and sad degree. Can you guys just comment on that? I mean, like, I know we were kind of talking before this and saying like, man, we're in tragic times, but really we're in tragic times, and you guys were almost prophetic in what you were talking about. So I'll leave it open for you guys to just kind of take it away for a second.
Well, it's just very I mean, it's very sobering, and it's really kind of disheartening to see so many things that we talked about very early on, even on the first record. You know, like this lady, Amy Cooper, who calls the police on a guy who's the bird watcher. I mean, you know, it's like right out of the song Funny Vibe, you know? So there's so many things. And like, speaking of the song Time's Up and the song Wall, I mean, throughout the band's history, there's so many things you go back. Auslander.
Love that one.
And it's weird that change has happened so slowly. And in fact, the progress that we thought we were making is actually going backwards. It actually feels like we're sliding backwards with every Supreme Court decision, with every executive order, with every extrajudicial police killing, murder. You know, we're going backwards. And, you know, we're talking about thinking back to like Eleanor Bumpers, you know what I mean? And starting from there, going forward.
Michael Stewart and all that stuff.
Michael Stewart was happening when we were playing in the clubs. We remember that very clearly, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And these things, it's a tragic mosaic, you know what I mean, of all the names and all the different ages of the people, little kids, 12 years old, you know, grandmothers, and on and on and on. This last one with George Floyd, it took it into a dimension of cruelty, of real callousness. That is like, I mean, that's the match. That was the final straw. To hear a man begging for his moms, you know what I mean, and not let up on him. That's why we're here today. That's why we're in the situation. But it's a long time coming. But the heartlessness of it is, I mean, it's unspeakable. But you know, it's weird. It's strange because in a certain way, you know, the band, you know, these things have kept the band relevant, but it's also terrible. It's also a terrible thing.
100%. And you know, especially for him to keep he was respectful till his last breath, and then you have another police officer who's standing there passively, and I guess because he's afraid to break the chain of command. One of the toughest things that I've probably watched in a long time. It was sickening, and I agree that the stuff that's going on now is obviously a byproduct, but can we come back from this? Like, what do you think? How do we heal?
Well, I
It's gonna
think
take a while. Go ahead, Will.
coming back is an interesting phrase, and I hear the phrase going back to normal. I don't think it was ever normal anyway. So for me, can we come back? Yes, but it's gonna have to be under completely different circumstances. Not that we're gonna have a choice, because there's the horrifying things that are happening now, which Vernon mentioned, the combination of COVID but also there's the fallout. You got sick at NAMM. If we just use NAMM as an example, all of those companies that designed all of that gear, PAs, speakers, guitars, drum sets, monitors, smoke machines, all of that gear that was designed for that show wasn't sold. All of that stuff that was made and promoted and ready to be put out for 2020 either was just ordered or wasn't. So there's a whole backlog of that. The music stores that were going to be selling that gear aren't going to be able to sell it. The people who are making things for 2021 now are also on hold. There's delivery stuff for the gear. That's just a small example of the fallout of something which is in comparison small, like NAMM, compared to what's going on out there in the world. So I think the system that we once were a part of, that we sort of lived through our lives, the education system, the healthcare system, the music industry, the instrument, all of these things are going to take on, I think, new lanes if we're going to quote unquote come back. There's no digressions available here. We can't go back to what we were doing. And in order for that to happen, we're going to have to address quite a few things. The policing system, our educational system, for those of us who have children that they're going doing work from home, our friends and colleagues that are teachers that are teaching from home, we're all giving lessons from home. All of these things are going to change. So coming back is a reality, but the deeper reality is going to be how and are people going to be able to acquiesce to these new changes and what the behavior piece is going to be like. But if we're going to think like we used to think, then there's going to be a problem. And that means monetary income. We don't know how it's going to be for us to go back. Are we going to play a club next year? I don't know. A club's going to be open. Can you stand next to somebody? Do you have to wear a mask? Can you sell a beer at the bar? Are you going to be able to use the bathroom in a club? Are you going to be able to fly on a plane? What's the situation with hotels? All of those things affect our industry. And we have to look to see how that's going to pan out. It's certainly possible to do. It's just going to be a combination of this next so-called strain of COVID coming back out. How much of the tribes will we continue to be thinned out from that, and how we're going to be able to function in a new environment. It's going to be a completely new environment. So it's definitely possible. But if we're going to drag some of the horrifying things that we talked about on Time's Up and Stain and Vivid into this new situation, then my answer is no. But if we can park those things and move on and learn from what's happening now, then I think we have a more promising opportunity to come back.
You guys were kind of fresh off you were doing the cruise ship thing, right? You were playing on the cruise ship right before this whole thing happened. Like, what was that like?
Somebody I hung out with, ironically, this guy is from Florida, owns a couple of golf courses and a fishing. He has these tourist things in Florida. And 2 days before, I met him on the ship. We just were hanging out, and he was a fan of Living Color. He came to the shows. 2 days before we got the boat, he said, "Will, man," he called my phone and said, I'm not going to hang out with you today because I don't feel good. Everything's tasting the same. He made a joke like everything tastes like chicken. He said the beans taste like chicken, the eggs taste like chicken. He didn't know he was losing his taste buds. We didn't know at the time. He's still on the boat. And he said, "Yo, man, tell the guys, thanks for everything, but I'm going to stay by myself the last 2 days of the cruise because I don't feel good." Something out of the blue, like around February 30th, 28th, or March 1st, I called him and I said, "Let me just check on this cat." Just so happens, he just gotten out of the hospital, and we just started talking about this situation in early March. And he said, "I got off that ship and I was caned. I couldn't breathe. I was sweating like hell." I mean, he quarantined himself anyway, and he believes that he had it. And this cat was hanging out with us. He was backstage, and we were all on the ship together. So What do I think about it? I think for the four of us to be on with you right now without catching anything, we dodged the bullet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a double whammy right there. You guys are kind of in the hot zone. I mean, I played on a cruise ship for a year. I had a bunch of friends that ended up getting stuck out at sea for they were on that one ship that was out for they wouldn't let it dock for
In the Pacific? Out in the
Yeah.
Pacific?
they were in the
Oh,
band. So that's a mess. You know, you're in close quarters, and think about how much money the cruise ship industry makes. Who's going to get on a cruise ship at this point? You know, it's going to take a lot of convincing for people to come, you know, get on a ship now that they know what just broke out. And that the sad part is that whole kind of cruise and kind of intertwining with music social experiment. That's cool, man. Like fans are in close proximity with their favorite artists, and not only are you getting a really intimate kind of cool performance, but you have the chance to maybe interface with like a band member while you're getting late night ice cream and or something, you know, or something like that. But that's kind of that, you know, because the music industry has changed so much and the tangible aspect has been lost. We as musicians need to work so hard to find ways to make money, and that was another really good outlet for making money.
Right.
And now that's man, I don't know if it's still on the table or what, but you know, like you said, when do you think that the music scene will come back? Will you guys play in the next year? Do we know?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, what's so difficult to predict, because everybody wants a solid prediction, and it's kind of, the situation is so volatile and the situation is so sideways. Like if the curve stays flat and there aren't a lot of cases, there aren't, you know, the hospitalizations go down, then people will cautiously start to do things. But the problem is, if they open up the country too quickly before flattening the curve, we know what's going to happen. There's going to be another series of outbreaks, and then if there's another series of outbreaks, there's going to be a double shutdown. Like the next shutdown is going to be even more invasive or what have you than this one, because if everybody runs to the beach, it's Memorial Day and everyone's protesting and everyone's hollering and carrying on, and then all of a sudden it all goes sideways, then everything is in a problem. Restaurants are in a problem. The idea of doing concerts or whatever is in a problem. And the other thing too is our health professionals are being hammered right now.
Killed.
So they're like they got to deal with somebody they got hit with with tear gas, right? So they got to deal with injuries, and they're dealing with COVID-19 patients, and you got to bring those people into the ER that have been wounded or injured during a protest in an environment where there's no vaccine and it's a crazy contagious disease. So it's just like, okay, everything's unprecedented, but now we're in a situation we really don't know. We really don't know. And so that's part of the context of it. You know, we all gotta live. We all have to kind of be inside this uncertainty, and that's something that's it's difficult for everyone. Our kids are going through it. The teachers are going through it. Teachers, here's the thing, right? So people have been saying ignorantly, and I did this at first in the beginning of March. I said, well, it's kind of like the flu. But if you look at what's happened, there's never been an outbreak of disease that's killed more health professionals, doctors and nurses. It's in the hundreds of doctors and nurses that are being taken out. So these are the people that we need, and the people that have the experience to deal with the situation are being severely affected. So it's up for grabs. I think, you know, we could say hopefully, you know, a year.
I think when there's a vaccine in place and you can actually leave your home, get in the car, go to the airport, arrive at your destination, go do a gig, come back home, and you're not infecting somebody and you're not being infected. You know, there's got to be a system in place to feel like we're going to be safe out here. Or what does that say? We need leaders right now. It's about good leadership and people giving us the truth of what's happening from professionals, scientific evidence, in play of what's going on, real stats. And the only way that we all as people, what we really all need to do, honestly, is vote. At the end of the day, we have to all vote if you want to make a change. And that's what's happening right now, where people are up, there's uprises going on, things are happening in real time. This is all musicians, nobody's working. Okay. Globally, we have markets that are in South America, south of the equator. It's fall down there right now. They're being hit hard in Brazil. Here we are now, we're in spring. We're trying to get through this, 2.5 months of, being inside. It's been tough for everybody. This has been the perfect storm. You couldn't create anything better. I mean, more realistic than this, but the leadership, that's where we're failing at. Where's our leaders at? And leadership, who's on and come off the sidelines. Everybody needs to chime in and have a unified voice so we could figure this out. Musicians are powerful. You can be on stage and say, throw your hands in the air, and everybody throws their hands in the air and stuff like that. So there's a power that musicians have. And I think all of our voices need to be heard, and we need community. We need to support our community leaders. We need to, because at the end of the day, our children are going to be paying this debt for years and years and years. And if we're not smart about what's happening, then it's going to be very hard for this ball of this yarn that has mud on it and now it's sun soaked. It's going to be hard to untangle it. And this is something that just hasn't started now. This has been happening for decades, centuries. This, plagues happen. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but if we need to unify, we need leaders, we need to speak up. And one thing I'll say, Living Color has been a band that has spoken up in times when other people have remained silent.
Exactly.
You can't do anything with your mouth muzzled. And on that, I'll give the microphone to Mr. Corey Glover.
Hey, I think we've proven that we live in a very fractious place here in North America, where the ideas that one person has is very different from the idea that somebody else has. Somebody's idea of freedom is very different from another person's idea of freedom. Us playing or making music, that's important. It's important to sort of to give somebody a chance to feel their emotions, to help understand their emotions. But what's most important is that we be here to do so. And if we can't be here to do that, it doesn't make any sense. So you have to take care of the things that allow you to be free. And until we do that, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can try to do. And you were saying, what's it going to take for us to heal? It's going to take a lot of hurt before it could heal. And that's what's going to happen over the next, who knows how long. But that's what we got to do so we can get back out there and play and have a good time and think and enjoy ourselves. Absolutely. Does anybody else have a question? Does anybody out there have a question?
Yeah.
I want to talk to y'all.
Here's a question that someone asked. People are asking if you're writing and recording from home or you're planning any virtual performances coming up.
Well, yes to both questions, actually.
Okay.
We are, yeah. I mean, I'll just say to move on. Yes, we're going to put some things out. Please be on standby and check for the website and for information on Instagram about both new music and live performances and live recordings.
That's awesome. Doug, you said you're doing a bunch of recording. You're staying busy doing session work from home. What's that been like?
Well, I'll be honest. I've been out here. This is the first, let me put it like this, is the first time I've had a break since I was 17 years old. So yeah. I'm home now and I'm happy to be home. I'm glad to be home, and I'm glad I'm home at this time. There's been always challenges, but Fortunately, I have people that have reached out to me for, you know, playing tracks and producing and mixing. So I'm fortunate, you know, but that comes from just networking over the years of having different people between my affiliation with folks globally, and you know, living in London and the UK for many years is, you know, there's interest. So I've been fortunate to be able to keep working uh, and doing sessions, doing mixes. You know, I set my home studio up so that I can actually work. And but it's you know, it's challenging. But I'll be honest, I'm actually glad to be home because I have been on the grind for a while, and so me personally, I'm okay. I'm fortunate.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, I want to help out other folks that need certain things to be able to get to the next level, and I'm glad that I'm able to help them out.
like right about now, I'm interested in kind of different kind of collaborations with folks. And you know, I reached out to David Torn to say, yo, man, let's do something. And he just said, yeah, we don't know what that is, or what have you.
Vernon, I sent him a rose petal, dude.
You done messed up.
I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
He'll find something. He's gonna take a road and he's gonna find some whole other. I mean, David is off the chain with his effects and things. How, you know, so that's actually really cool. And then, you know, just songwriting and you know, thinking about, it's weird because we're in the middle of it, right? But I'm processing, you know, different emotions about it. You know what I mean? And I think we're all doing that. And really part of the thing is it's like right in front of us. Everything, the fear, the uncertainty is right in front of us. And maybe it's important to not be exactly on the nose with things, because there's all kinds of other feelings going on too.
Right.
And there are all kind of other, you know, like one thing that I've been doing is I've been going out and taking pictures, and that's giving me a perspective on sound. You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking about, well, what's a sound that's going to encapsulate this feeling that I've got right now?
Yeah,
you know?
I've been following your Instagram. Some of those photos are just so, man, it doesn't even look like the United States, man. I feel like we're in like Chernobyl. What some of those photos? Truly,
it's a weird thing to see the city in this way. And it's a challenge, but it's also like, you know, like, so there's things going on. So I'm like, yo, I want to go to Brooklyn and check out what, and it's like, I kind of have to slow my roll because, you know, I got to think about my family and all, you know what I mean? I can't, you know what I mean? I'm already taking a calculated risk by taking my bike and going on the ferry. So certain things I have to, you know, you have to be careful, you know, I have to be careful. And people have said to me, yo, man, be careful out here. And it's like, it's a real thing to consider, because it's not just about me, it's about everybody I'm connected to. So it's a balance between, you know, engaging with the world to get the inspiration for other things, you know what I mean, to get the inspiration for music, but also at the end of the day, I want to get back home and you know, and be with the fam and all like that.
Absolutely. We got some more questions rolling. Doug, I gotta say, by the way, dude, your performance at the Eventide NAMM booth was one of the most legendary performances that we've probably ever had, man. I was literally throwing T-shirts out into the crowd. That was such a party, dude. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good time. Daru Jones was getting it in. Who was the young girl playing drums?
Oh, the Japanese girl. I forget her name. It's on our
Yeah.
Instagram, but she's gonna be a star. She's amazing.
Yeah, you know, I think you guys, you hit the nail on the head. We had a good time, good vibe, and you know, hey man, Eventide was in full effect.
Yeah, man. Nice
A lot of
to
fun.
think back about fun times sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into some more questions here. Let's see. This one is from YouTube, and we kind of touched on this, but we'll hit it real quick. How does it feel that the songs you wrote 30 years ago are even more relevant today?
It feels horrifying in a way. It feels it's it's horrifying in a way that, because now I would say it's one thing to think about a song like Time's Up or Pride or Auslander in the maybe let's just say a year or two ago versus thinking about the song and what's happening right now. Now everything's kind of really in your face. So it's a terrible reminder. I'm thrilled that we wrote those tunes and that we went out and performed this music in front of people, and we kept our art honest and wore our beliefs and our moods on our sleeves and played it out, the concepts and the vibes out to people in the venues. But part of writing music and creating art is also for you to capture something in time and think about moving forward from it. So you can go back and talk about cult of personality. You can go back and talk about love riz. You can go back. But it seems Vernon talked about things going backwards. It just kind of, it's this weird now reality of listening. Even I like listening to speeches. I listen to Malcolm's speeches. I listen to interviews, Dr. King's interviews, James Baldwin's interviews. And you go back and even listen to those things. And those are horrifyingly relevant now. Some of the things Muhammad Ali said, some of the things Fannie Lou Hamer said, even some of the things Miles and Dizzy talked about, Max Roach with the industry. So I don't feel good about it in the sense of it being relevant, where I have to watch people die and lose their homes and have people in the hospital sick, and that aspect of it. It's horrifying to me, but we're hoping that this situation can move forward, and the music, you don't want your music to be timeless. In some aspects, you do want it to be timeless, but I'd rather have it be art and a great song and a great mood we can look back on, rather it be something that we wrote 25 years ago and it's happening.
Look back and reminisce on Funny Vibe. Remember when people used to call the cops on us just for living? Remember that?
Also,
Yeah.
It's sad. That's
Well,
the really sad part of it. You know,
yeah.
we wrote these songs in a real way to sort of shine a light on them, to say this is what exists and this is what it is. And if you think it's something that should change, then do something about it. And the fact that we've got people who love the song but don't do anything about it is kind of disheartening.
I was watching the video, the unedited, the real version of Auslander yesterday, and that is just so poignant. It's pretty much like it's a parallel to what's going on right now. And I think I was reading one of the comments. I believe that the director of the video actually commented on the YouTube video saying that you guys basically the song got stymied because it was so controversial and so real, and MTV wanted to play a bunch of fluff bullshit, and they didn't want to broadcast that back then because it was talking about a real issue and an issue that still plagues us right now. I mean, do you guys feel like that is true?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that the idea of that song came from me. I was on a drum clinic tour with Sonar, and I was going into Sonar. It's a German drum company, and most of the dates were in Germany. And most of the time, I would go drive past a park or some public area. I just saw Auslander Raus written on the wall with spray paint, and I noticed that it was only written in neighborhoods where there were immigrants, where there were Turkish people, or Philippines, or Indians, or Pakistanis. So at the time, the beginning of me going on clinic tours was in the 90s. I asked my driver, man, what is that? Why do I keep seeing that? Is that a band? And he goes, oh no, that means foreigner out. So when I first saw it, I was like, wow. But then I started realizing this is in every city. I was running into this line in almost and Frankfurt had it, Berlin had it, Dusseldorf had it. So then I thought to myself, And then that was the impetus for me to start writing some lyrics and getting a bass from the music store, and then starting to put the ideas down. And I just brought it back into rehearsal with the guys, and we shaped it. But I just thought it was shocking that in every park that I went to, in every city I drove, I wasn't looking for it, but I sure did see it. And that is a reality, whether MTV wants to show it or not. But the video was spot on. It's well done.
The video is all
Well done. And that's something for anyone who knows about that culture over there, what's happening with Germany historically, with a lot of Turkish coming there to work, where Germany is kind of really on the map, the history of Hitler, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these other bits that get thrown into that. But one of the things, many things I'm proud of to be in this band is not ever compromising on the art, on Funny Vibe.
absolutely.
We shot a video called Bye, and we shot it at this mansion. And we had the people that you see in that video are not acting. That's that culture. That's the vibe there. Called the personality. All of the things that happen in our videos, in our lyrics. I love the fact that we don't shy away from them. And if MTV does, that's not our issue. But it's very important for us to put the truth out there with the music and images.
MTV shied away from videos altogether. Let's be honest. There's no more videos.
You're right. It's Jersey Shore or whatever they have now. That's when I stopped watching. I don't know, man. Also love the verse in Auslander, that tritone, dude. It's just perfect. It's perfect for what's going on, man. It just sounds like chaos. I love it. Okay, so here's another question. Will you be doing any more drum clinics?
Well, I don't know. Right now, I'm doing everything from home. I'm here kind of in my studio now. I've done a few lessons from here. I'll have some teaching set up for a couple of schools in the following semester. Clinics are like concerts in a way. And if the doors open up for concerts, then the doors will open up for clinics, because there are the health issues. And you want to make certain when you're doing something like that, educational, that it's safe, the environment is safe, and people are able to receive the information. So all I can mention to that person is I'm going to do a few things online to fill in the gaps for now, and try to have a situation where I can play and people can ask questions. I am doing lessons, so I'm doing things privately, but I haven't done anything for more than maybe 3 or 4 or 5 students at a time on Zoom or something along that line. So I want to continue doing it, yes, but hopefully if the clubs open up and Living Colors back on the road and we're playing again, then yes, I'd like to do more clinics.
That's cool. Here's another, someone is asking if you remember this. I'm sure you do. Do you remember when the ceiling came down during your famous drum solo in Toronto in 1989?
Oh, that was the best.
I do remember that, and I'll say that the surprising thing was when you're playing a drum solo and you're getting into it, you're thinking about people looking at you and vibing you. And sometimes I play with my eyes closed. But when I looked out to the audience and I looked at Corey and Vernon on the side of the stage, everybody was looking up at the ceiling. So I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? Everybody's looking up.
Will brought the house down.
The tiles started falling and falling and falling. And then Corey was like, yo, you got it. Because they were coming towards me. Each plate was falling and falling and falling. So then we had to stop the show. And that was wow. That.
That's insane. This is kind of like a Doug and Will question. Doug, what do you value most about working with Will as a drummer? Will, what do you value most about working with Doug as a drummer? Will, I think I said that wrong.
What?
Will as a drummer. Doug, baseball. Sorry, dude.
You
I
mean
tripped up on that one. That's my bad, bro.
Don't worry.
We see that you work for a pedal company because you don't care about anything but that. I get it.
That's it, man. I can't barely read.
Don't worry about it. It happens all the time. Reggie Workman still calls me Doug and still calls. Doug and I work with Reggie Workman, and Reggie Workman will call me and ask me, how's Will doing?
Oh my
and he
God.
means Doug. So
well, that's
so
good.
It's all good. I let Doug start with that. It's all right.
It's bass players and drummers. We have to have that connection, And from the time I met Will, well, it's interesting. I got to go back even before Will because Vernon and I go way back. I've known Vernon since 1982 when he was trying to put Living Color together. He would come by our apartment on 14th Street and having a conversation about certain things. If you remember Vernon, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Just like back in the 80s, and through different transitions, blah 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 blah. But anyway, when I actually heard Will perform, it was eye-opening. But it was really when we had the opportunity to actually play together. Really, the first time we played together was when I did when I auditioned for Living Color. And And it's funny how things happen. They say things happen in threes. And in that week, I got a call from Seal. I got a call from Will Calhoun first, Bruce Springsteen, and Seal, all wanting me to be engaged and stuff. So things, okay, but I always go with who who calls me first. And I love Vernon, and I work with Corey prior, did something in London. But so Will's like, look, I'm coming over, man. I'm coming to London. He gave me the lowdown of what's happening. I'm like, okay, cool. So anyway, the first time I think I played with you, Will, was at the audition. And if I remember right, it was probably at the audition with for the band. And I remember saying, okay, I had to learn the stuff really quickly. I only had a few days. And I went over, and I always try to learn the hardest stuff first. So the first song I learned was, I said, let's do Time's Up first. And it was just silence in the room because everybody, it's like, did I say something wrong? And they're like, no, you're the only one that came in and wanted to really play that song. I'm like, let's do it. So we played through a few things, and I was like, wow, man, he's got such dynamic. But what really struck me about Will is just his drive and his power, but he listens. And as a bassist, that's key. So and then fast forward, I end up in the band, and the next thing you know, we're out and they had a spot on Queen Street in Queens, and we started to get into the rehearsing for what was to be the first gig with myself with Living Color, and that was to be in South America. So anyway, as we're playing, I'm like, you know what, this is really exciting because I've worked with a lot of drummers over the years, but for me to be able to actually to really be able to be a driving force in any band, whether it's hitting the gas or sitting back, the drummer and the bass player have to be able to create a shape. It has to be, it's the shape and the spacing that really defines what comes on top of that. And what comes on top of that could be what Vernon's doing or what Corey's doing. If we're not straight, then it's good. It's good night, Irene. I'll see you in my
along
dreams.
to destroy it.
Well, yeah, it's easy to do stuff, but what we did do is, what I did appreciate about Will Calhoun is he listened. And one of the first things I tried to do when I got in the band was just try to bring a sense of experience and try to define time a little bit with like, okay, well, why don't you and I work with a drum machine? You know what I mean? And work with a click and start finding different ways to find that spacing. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we just hit it right off. It was like a match made in heaven. And from that point, things will bloom. If you can connect and you're able to listen, then we both can appreciate what each of us have to offer. And then that becomes one. And when you're one, life is beautiful.
Awesome. That's a great answer, man. Well, what do you think, Will?
Well, for me, I mean, it was, we're on the Eventide tip, and I don't have a problem wanting to check other cats out. I'm always been inspired by that, and I got really inspired by Doug because there was a time when Doug was staying over here, staying at my place, and I had a chance to really. It was almost like we started building a car with the parts coming out of a box. Like we ordered the parts and we were assembling the car in the driveway. So I got a chance to really mechanically, in some aspects, even be a student. From Vernon too, Vernon and Doug, in terms of electronics and how things are working. I was interested to try to get my electronic drums and things to do things that the guitar and the bass were doing, and how does it work and how is the change. So sometimes, I would rap it and pick the brain. But Doug was really, really, and as a teacher, he was just really strict academically about, Will, this is how this works, and this is how this works. So then I just started bouncing some ideas off of him, and Doug's really adamant about the time and things being a certain kind of a way, and he can feel when it's not. He's playing the bass sometimes. He'll just turn around and look at me like, careful of slipping, and for me, the music, that's real. The music comes first. So no matter how I'm feeling about that at that moment, I have to trust that that's what's happening. If Corey comes to me and says, yo, Will, we got to bring the volume down, or this is too slow, I need this to be faster, even if it's faster than the night before, and Corey needs that to get the vibe across, and I got to deliver. That's kind of the vibe, when you're playing drums. But Doug's a really unique bass player for me because I think for me, even drummers included, he's probably the best musician I've worked with that has the best time, period. Like time. I'm just keeping it real. Even from some drummers that I know, his time is pretty, and I teased Doug about this. We were doing this Brazilian session one time with Fernanda Porta in Brazil. She's like a drum and bass queen in Brazil. And I remember we cut the tracks and Doug wanted to do a bass thing over. And the guy, this was the old Pro Tools days, the guy said, okay, Doug just finished cutting this track, quantize it now. And normally when you hit the computer and it quantizes, it does something, And when on Doug's part, the screen didn't move. It was like, even the engineer was like, what, that kind of a thing. So the sense of time when you're a drummer and you have a bass player whose sense of time is that spot on, for me, it is educational. You do listen and you do learn. And it helped me coming from definitely like an ambient and jazz background to be able to take things that I've learned from drummers that I studied with and I watched and build in and around the time. But I would say for me, the best part is we're working with Doug was sharpening my time and getting me to understand, what it means to work with a click. The click is your friend kind of in a way. And then after you really get locked into the click, you don't hear it anymore. It sets a tone. So, and also Doug and I've done a lot of music. So I would say the second best thing about the relationship is how open Doug is. We can just try this, let's try that, let's try this electronic, put this on the drums. Let's just flange the whole kit. We were doing all kinds of crazy things in the studio with sound, and the bass and the drums then became it took on different aspects in the music. It wasn't just notes and timekeeping anymore. We started to think about ideas and playing like lyrics in our music. So we had that very rhythmic connection, experimental time. So when it comes time to playing Living Color music, and there were times when him and I just worked on our parts for Living Color songs. Doug has sat in on some of my drum clinics and he said, let's just play Go Away, just bass and drums, or let's just play Time's Up in the middle of a clinic. And, just to play our parts, to try to nail our parts. And this way, as he just stated, if once we can nail our stuff and get it tight, it gives Vernon and Corey a lot more freedom to want to, jump without a parachute.
You guys recently posted quite kind of a question that I have that's semi-related. You guys just recently posted a live concert from the Netherlands, and I noticed during your drum solo, you have some really interesting pads going on. Like you're doing like almost hitting like a whole half, like a symmetric type thing, and then it moves to fifths. Like, what is the inspiration for that? Are you programming?
Yeah, Will. What is the inspiration for that?
No, it's so sick, man. I've just never heard anything like that. I mean, the solo was like 15 minutes long. It was wild.
Please explain.
That's a short solo. That was short. Slipping Will. Will's the best drummer on earth. Period. I said it.
Oh my God.
I love him.
Dude.
Love you, Will.
He's a man with so much to give.
One time, Will did a 19-minute drum solo in Long Island. Do you remember that, Vernon?
I do.
It's still going on in the universe somewhere.
That's funny, Doug. It just felt like 5 minutes.
I know it did.
I know it did.
I don't know why. I don't know what you guys are doing. I just thought I was just getting started. You guys are looking at me like,
I know you were just
my hero, y'all. Will Calhoun.
Touched on a sore subject.
But look, man, by the way, that's Vernon. The beginning of that drum solo, Vernon is doing the drum machine stuff there.
Okay.
All the electronic stuff.
That's when we did the drum and bass, going back and forth. Oh yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
We tried this tour where Vernon had all of this Ableton stuff, and our agreement was,
I got it.
We didn't rehearse it. I said every night just start something, and I'll come in.
Oh yeah, that was wild. I remember that.
And that particular night in Holland, Vernon was actually changing it up a little bit more than he did the previous nights. Some things were like stopping and starting and that kind of stuff. But it was his head started going like this.
It's funny, man. A band. It's funny because the band. We've had like many different kind of almost technological epochs. You know what I mean? Like there's points where we're doing a particular soundscape, There's a particular thing that, as I recall, that was when Corey had the little crazy megaphones,
Oh
right?
Lord, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
The crazy like circuit bent megaphones and
Yes.
things.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And yeah, and and that was actually real fun. It's like it's a real fun. There are periods where I go, oh yeah, that's when we did that's when we were doing the kind of King Crimson-ish thing here. This is when we were doing the real churchy thing over here. You know what I mean? Because when you live with the music for a while, and it's not even a thing you talk about. You just suddenly like when the H9s came in, the H9s shifted where, you know what I mean? As opposed to just talk about the history of the sonic history. Like there was a time when I was using the H3000s, right?
Yeah.
And the H3000 was when we do information overload, and that was just bananas. And we'd start the intro, and it would just sound like the guitar was being stomped on, turned inside out, and you know what I mean? A toaster being dropped.
Yes, it did.
And you know what I mean? So that's the funny thing, because in the evolution of the band and sounds, the idea of combining our musical expression with these novel approaches to sound is also one of the signatures of the band.
100%.
Yeah, I mean the stuff. Some of the stuff is programmed, that you heard on the wave drum and those other things, and some of the things I just combine. It comes from experimenting with those little plastic cymbals or a D drum. Actually, I make kind of a joke because that's like the Danny Terrio disco cymbals. I used to make those cheesy floor tom sounds, but I connected them to a different machine to get another kind of a wobbling effect with some of the drums. So what I'm doing is just mixing the stuff up. And to be honest with you, it's not really a plan. I just kind of go along with the vibe at that night and decide on, well, I am going to use the H9 with the whammy, or I'm just going to use delay with the wave drum, or I'm just going to trigger the plastic cymbals and put like a distortion on that. So I kind of leave it to be open. But the fun, it's just the fun part about, being in the band where the soundscape is so large. So some of those things are programmed, and some of those things I'm just literally pulling off as we do them. I'm just hitting something. And sometimes those nights you hit that and you're like, that's not it. Something doesn't loop and you got to go on to something else, or the delays is stuck somewhere in the time, and your mind is here, but the pedal is there. So I also leave room where if everything's not functioning properly, I can just jump back on the kit and just play the drum set. So still, it's a process I'm still working on, where I'm trying to deal with the past and the future. And I have spent a decent amount of time, mostly in West Africa, studying a lot of ancestral rhythms and ancestral music and rhythms for different kinds of beats for weddings and funerals and childbearing and harvest and all these kind of things. But it's very interesting to take those patterns that you may play on a drum.
Which one of those patterns do you play with us?
I got a special one for you, Corey. I'm working on.
I know you do.
Hey, Corey, got a couple questions for you.
Really?
Are you doing or thinking of doing any voice clinics or vocal clinics?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Corey.
I want to sign up for that. I'd like to sign. Let me know, Corey. I want to take a class.
And what microphone?
I got a class for you. I got a class for you.
Corey got a Bob clinic? Is there a Bob clinic for Corey?
My question for Corey is, what microphone are you using? Are you singing out of a carrot?
I'm singing out of doors. I'm singing outdoors and letting the world hear it. Ah! There it is. That's your lesson.
You scaring the birds.
Well,
No,
I'd like
right
to.
there looking at me crazy.
I'm gonna sign up for the vocal class, Corey.
Me
So let
too,
me know
Corey.
what's happening.
It's funny. Greg Drew just texted me to ask you, why is Uncle Drew playing drums now in Living Color? But I don't want to get into that. I'd love to do some lessons. I'd love to get some lessons. Really, I really need some lessons.
Here we go.
Because
Vernon, break that violin out.
Y'all can all go to hell. Each and every one of you. Not Christian, but the rest of you.
But I love you, Corey.
I could care less. Anyway, the question he was asking. I would love to give lessons. I'd love to try to figure out exactly what this is that I'm doing. And the best way I know how is to get some feedback from other people. And I'd love to give lessons. I'd love to work again with my vocal coach who's on there right now, Greg Drew, who's amazing. I recommend you go to him before you even talk to me.
That's cool, man. And by the way, I know all the dudes from Disciples of Verity. I played a bunch of shows with George Pond,
Shout out to them.
Corey Pierce. Are you gonna work on or go out again when this opens up?
Yeah, we're working on a few things now. I got a few tracks from George, Go to Hell George. And he and we're supposed to be working on something in the next couple of weeks. But we got it. We made a record. We're trying to get it out, and this whole Rona thing just screwed everything up. But eventually, we'll get it. We'll get it out there. We'll get the record out there at least, and then we'll go out and play. We did a few shows a couple of months ago in the winter, and those are great. I had a great time doing that, and it was very different. Very different. It's like, what's that from Baron Munchausen's? It's bliss. They call me tiny.
That's awesome, man. Those guys are good dudes. I played a bunch of shows with him, man. George is the man. Super nice.
George
guy.
is great.
Guys, here's another question. You guys are so varied stylistically. You're jumping from punk to metal to funk to jazz. Who are the musicians and artists that excite and inspire each of the member or each of you?
So
That's impossible. I know. Just give a couple. You guys listen to everything.
That's a tough one.
I want to give a shout out to two local musicians and two famous musicians.
Okay.
So the two local musicians are no longer with us, but I want to give them a shout. Ronnie Drayton, guitarist Ronnie Drayton, who played for many years with Nona Hendrix and the Family Stand, and he was in the band 24/7 Spies. You know, if you get a chance, you got to check out their latest record. It's Ronnie's all over it, and it's fantastic. The other musician left us a while back, and that's the multi-instrumentalist Arthur Rames, who played saxophone, guitar, and piano at the highest levels. You know, he was a fusion guitar player, played piano like McCoy Tyner and played sax like Coltrane. It was crazy, and that's not hyperbole. That's not hyperbole at all. It was off the chain. But he's also a musician.
Wow.
Because he was a victim of the whole AIDS crisis. He changed my life in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? He changed my life in terms of dealing with LGBT people. He changed my life in just being an incredibly courageous person, uncompromising musician. I got to give a shout out to my first sensei, Carlos Santana, because I heard that sound, and that was the sound that made me want to pick up the guitar in the first place. And of course, I'm going to add two. Of course, Jimi Hendrix, hearing the Band of Gypsies record utterly flipped my head. And another musician, the last one I'm going to mention real quick, is the bass player from Cream, Jack Bruce. And Jack Bruce was an exemplary musician. He was a rock musician, but he embraced jazz. He played with Tony Williams. You know, he played with Carla Bley. He was a very, very, very adventurous person. He was a big fan of Living Color. And we know his family, and he was someone who really expanded the idea of the worlds that a musician can inhabit. So those are five.
Cool. Doug, how about you, man?
Again, started off local with me. My first real heroes were local musicians, and one person's name is Skip McDonald. I met Skip. I was a student at the Artist Collective, Jackie McLean's Artist Collective, and from there I met Skip McDonald, Harold Sargent, drummer, and Hubert Powell, amazing gospel keyboard player, the late and great Otha Stokes.
Mm-hmm.
And from that was my initial training at first, working with who I say are my elders, because they gave me guidance in regards to not just how to play the notes, but how to be disciplined. And they were show band. They knew how to actually put on shows properly, but they knew how to survive in the industry as well. So as much as I was getting the training of how to play, I was also learning the art of music business and how to walk between these friggin' crazy raindrops that were dropping on me. But then preceding even that was Sly and the Family Stone, how he actually presented a multiracial band to America and was doing things that were above and beyond sonically as the complete package. You know, Larry Graham, way ahead of the game. Sly as a writer, Sly was a DJ, and it was just beyond, above and beyond listening to that. And I also want to break down. I mean, obviously Jimi Hendrix was a huge influence, and back in those days, if you were black listening to Jimi Hendrix and everybody was, you were getting reamed, you were getting kind of caned, because who's this hippie man you're listening to? And then, a lot of folks didn't even dig Jimmy till after he passed. But listening to Jimmy gave me a sense of dimension, sonic dimension. And it was Jimmy and Eddie Kramer's alliance that was able to open the vortex up. And then again, it was Buddy Miles as a solo artist and as a leader of a band, And then I'm going back to let's take some other regional bands that I liked. Was Kool and the Gang. Kool and the Gang was an amazing band. So, now put into my world was Miles Davis. And working with, I had the pleasure of working with Miles in the Sun City Project. But then fast forwarding to some of my friends on the other side of the pond, being able to work with Jeff Beck gave me another sensibility of working with a real kind of like pure musician, not necessarily coming from, just coming from the heart, and watching Jeff play, no pick, finding ways to get tones out of his instrument that, was amazing. But I also want to say there's three other musicians that really shaped my life, and that's Vernon Reid, Corey Glover, and Will Calhoun. And I want to give you all some love.
Yeah, right.
Because honestly, here's the deal. Sometimes things are so close to you, you don't give the respect or the love to what's going on to your family.
It's true.
Everything has to start at home first. And the fact that I was able to come into this band and take on a role, like I said, I've known Vernon before he put the band together. I met Vernon in before, 1981 or 82 and stuff like that.
Something like that, yeah, man.
Duke
Booty.
We met on a session, but let's be real. All my Sugar Hill friends, there's been journeys from Woodbrass and Steel to the Sugar Hill era to Tackhead, Keith LeBlanc, Adrian Sherwood, Mark Stewart, all of that. But here I am now, still having the waking up every day knowing that that I could call Skip on the phone right now. He's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk to Keith LeBlanc and Adrian Sherwood right now. I'm on a podcast with my family, Vernon Reid, Will Calhoun, and Corey Glover. And I don't take that lightly. You know what I mean? Tell people you love them. I love y'all. Let them know you love them.
Yeah, I love you too.
That's what life's all about for me.
I gotta love you. You're my family. It's like you can't not love you.
That's so awesome, man. And Doug,
I try.
Doug, I admire that about you, man, because you're just one of those guys that can walk into a room and, dude, like you said, you really did learn the music business. You know everybody. You always treat people with respect. You're always friendly. You have a million contacts, and I mean, I think that's a testament to you as a person too, man. That's pretty cool. Not every, aside from being a virtuosic bass player, you don't have to be a nice guy. You could be a total douchebag, but you're not, I mean, I think that goes a long way in the music industry. And I've dealt with a lot of people that are, the latter.
Wow. Tell us more.
And
Exactly. Give names.
No one's watching. That one, Christian.
I might get a call from the boss man terminating my employee.
Let's hear it.
All right, man. Just drop an initial on. Just drop an initial on us. Come on, baby.
See,
first and last. Come on, baby.
Dude, you know what I'm saying. But it is cool that you have that skill. I would call that a skill. anyways, not sorry for blowing you up like that, but Corey, what about you, man?
There are so many people that influenced what I do. First and foremost is my brother, who was in many respects the archetype for me singing at all. The reason why I sing at all is because of him and my sister, really. But my brother was really the person that I saw that he could make people feel things with his voice. And this is strictly from, singing in church or, singing on the stoop. It was amazing to me, and it always has been and always will be.
Cool.
But anybody else you could think of, I listened to them.
I can hear it.
HR from Bad Brains was a major. I've been trying to imitate him since I got in this band. God rest Little Richard, him, Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke, shout out to Mr. Sam Moore from Sam and Dave. All of them, anybody that I could get a hold of just to and sing along with the radio on is who influenced me in some way, shape, or form.
Cool. Isn't it so cool, guys, that you guys had Little Richard's part of your history, man?
Man.
It's so
amazing. Totally amazing.
That's one of the coolest things. That spoken word is it's so right on the money. Incredible. And the video is so cool too, man.
Incredible.
Yep.
Will, how about you?
Well, starting from my neighborhood, man. Other guys know my Bronx head proudly. And
BX all day.
Yeah, and like Corey, my older brother Charles Calhoun played drums for many years. I was, not wanting to play because he was my older brother, but I was a fan.
Me too.
And I grew up in a fantastic neighborhood with other great musicians. Ray Chu lived around the corner from me. Pumpkin, Errol Bedwood lived a few blocks away. And Pumpkin's one of the instrumental killer drummer and piano player and bass player, but he's one of the instrumental guys that I think got hip hop kind of on the map in a way, selling beats to labels and that kind of thing. Steve Jordan lived around the corners, Leroy Cloud. There's a lot of great musicians that were in the neighborhood that were bass players, guitar, but being in the Bronx and going to see, living kind of, I'm on the northeast side. So when we went to Orchard Beach, sometimes on Sundays, a lot of Latin cats would go out there. So you got a chance to see a lot of Dominican musicians and Puerto Rican musicians and Haitian musicians. They had drum circles, cats out there playing. So I was really fortunate just before getting into music to be surrounded by that. And my neighborhood was great. My friends, my brother, I hung out with older people, my brother's friends, because they were just hipper than me. And then my friends' parents on my block, Mr. French and my other friend, Mr. Torres. Mr. Torres gave me my first Cachao record. And he said, Calhoun, he used to always say, you got to listen to Cachao. You got to listen to Tito from 1956 live at the... So some of my friends' parents would dump records on me just because they knew I was interested. My first professional recording was with somebody we all know here on the phone named Shango. And I was 16 years old in high school, and I cut my first track called Feel It, 12-inch CBS Records, small subsidiary called Zoo Yard, and with the great Lonnie Hillier on bass, Pablo Calogero on saxophone. So that was my first introduction into being in rehearsal, being on time, playing with cats, recording microphones. The gentleman who recorded that record actually is the same gentleman that recorded Stanley Clark's School Days record. So being 16 years old and going into the recording studio and seeing him at the board made me excited about, that. We used to play the Mud Club and the Peppermint Lounge. And at the time we opened for not yet labeled Blondie, but it was like kind of Blondie with a Breakfast Club-ish kind of band. So growing up in New York City, being in the Bronx, my first experiences started at home and being in my neighborhood and going to Brooklyn and going to Queens to play with cats and going to J&R Music World and going to Tower Records and having those places. You mentioned Sam Goody earlier, having those venues. And then I would just say, like, professionally, there's so many people that my colleagues just mentioned. I love Buddy Miles. We were very close. He talked to me a lot about drumming, about and Mitch Mitchell, by the way, being a Hendrix fan. I talked to those two guys a lot about playing with Hendrix, what they played on songs. Everybody in the band knows I'm an avid Tony Williams fan, and
I love that stuff.
the time that I could hang out with Tony, we did a drum clinic tour together. So I had a chance to be with him like 1 week in a row, me and Vinny Colaiuta. So being around Tony, he is to me one of the architects of fusion and bridging the jazz and the rock thing, undeniably. So, you know, talking to Tony, and Tony was Living Color fan, which made me feel great. Billy Cobham, of course, and there's so many great drummers now to Michael Walden, and even some not so known, Mingo Lewis. And then growing up in New York, I studied jazz drumming in New York at Drummers Collective. So I met a great gentleman named Horace Arnold. We're friends to this day. And then Horace took me to meet Max Roach, Elvin Jones, Art Blakey, so many great jazz drummers to get me into another head of thinking. So I would say stylistically and sort of academically, those are just quick, brief names. But as musicians that inspired me, mine definitely starts with Miles, for what Miles, his fearlessness and what he brought to the table, I think is timeless. Obviously, Jimi Hendrix. And from the Miles offshoot, there's Coltrane and McCoy and all these other kind of great musicians. But, you know, I also like some of the other sides of sound. And one of my favorite classical composers is a Finnish composer named Arvo Part.
Sure.
And Arvo Part is someone that I was inspired by. Doug and I did this concert in Estonia. He's an Estonian composer, actually. Mm-hmm. And the promoter is a woman, Anne Erm, who brought us over, where I talked to her about Arvo Part. And ironically, the next day she brought me back her college photograph, and she was in school with Arvo Part. Now she runs the jazz festival in Estonia. So I had a chance then to get really in contact with Arvo's music and more inside stuff. So I also like to mention that music has also inspired me. Some of the silence, very still notes, not a lot of music happening. The reality of how to use space and how to use just a few notes. And Vernon and I always joke about Craig Mack's tune and how it's just two notes.
Yeah.
It's a hip hop tune.
Flavor in your ear, yeah.
Two brilliant notes and a brilliant beat, and how that just, that's all, you can't touch that song after that. So, you know, Flavor in Your Ear is one of those tunes. And to go from Arvo Part to Flavor in Your Ear gives you a little bit of an idea of the scope of things that I like. So I'll stop there.
That was the theme song to Homicide, right? The TV show. It was for a while.
Yeah. I mean, that's a brilliantly assembled track, because the beat is just bananas. But those two notes, the way they're played and the sound
of the notes too, yeah.
It's just a brilliant piece of art.
Cool, guys. We've been on for a while. I got one more question from YouTube, and then we'll sign off.
Cool.
This might be a tough one for you guys, but can you describe your songwriting process?
No.
Bananas.
That was going to be
completely bananas.
The songwriting process for us has been all over the map. You know, it's individuals bringing in tunes. It's us vibing off of a riff. You know, like a lot of tunes, like say on our last record, Shade. I mean, they almost kind of wrote themselves. Like I take a song like "Who's That." Like "Who's That" is like a classic kind of blues kind of riff based thing, and it just kind of unfolded. Other things have taken longer. You know, we don't have like we don't have a method, a solid a baked-in methodology. Every tune has got a different genesis. Has got a different. Every song has its own life, and that's basically the thing about our process. It can start with a riff. One line of lyric, you know what I mean, and that's or it could be completely formed. This could be this is the tune I wrote. So all of those things happen with us.
We're open to the collaboration. We're very open to the idea of, yeah, that sounds good, but let me try this. What do you think if this happens? Or if I put this there, will that work? So we're very open to the process of the song becoming itself.
Yeah, I'll give a small example of that. When we were rehearsing the Stain record in Queen Street, and Corey was in charge of turning on the DAT. When we started, I would count off the song, and Corey's job was to push record on the DAT recorder. And one time he hit it, and it didn't come on for a minute, and he stopped it, and he hit it again. So when we went back and listened to "Go Away," it had this skip in it, and we actually made that skip the drum introduction to the song.
That's so awesome.
That happened because Corey hit the record button, and it went off, and you hit it again quickly, and that so-called mistake, which it wasn't, became, Vernon was like, hey, hang on a minute, play that again from the top, and we wound up finding a way of making that skip, that funny sounding drum fill into the song was actually Corey's recording edit on the tape machine.
Screw up. Just say it. I fucked up. I know what I did.
I think for me, it's just like the first step is just encouraging everybody to get us all to have a conversation. A lot of songs are written from a conversation. We could be on the bus, we could be talking about something. What's the topic at the time? And for me, the first step is I have to walk over to my bass and pick it up and try to have a conversation with it, because it's not going to walk over to me. That's the first step right there. And if I can get that, and if I can help encourage us as a unit to be able for us to engage, then that's what I like to do. I'm like, Vernon, what you got? You know what I mean? What are you feeling? And not shooting it down. Will be in the corner doing something. So my vibe is I'm just scanning the room all the time. Well, Corey, what do you got? What are you going on? Wake up. Come on, let's do it. Because Corey's very unique, because unlike Vernon and Will, Corey hears a lot of rhythms in his head. Has a lot of rhythms, and he's very good at vocalizing. Look at that neck. You ought to see Corey's football photo as well. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But the point is, it's just like,
you can go straight.
But the thing is, Living Color is a very, very unique group. We're 4 individuals, and when you put us together, there's magic that happens. And really, to me, the magic, as much as it is in the studio, it's what's live on stage. And I'm always like, if we can capture that magic, you know what I mean? Usually it comes from like, let's do some shows, then go in the studio and then do some more shows. And that to me seems to be a way for us to be able to catch ourselves in its natural environment, but mainly it's just like, you have to support each other, and also be able to, because we're all part of this world of Living Color. And that, I think the magic comes from us giving ourselves the opportunity to fight it out sometimes. Vernon's like, yo, man, I got this thing. Somebody else might be, no. I'm like, no, let's make it happen. Let's give it a shot. You know what I mean? And if you believe in each other, the magic happens. That's my Martin Luther King.
Also, songs also change. The meanings of songs change for us over time.
True.
You know what I mean? Like a certain type of tune, will suddenly have your perspective on it. Especially when we haven't played a tune for a long time. Like we would play Mind Your Own Business. Like it's a tune that comes in and out of our set. And it's interesting when it comes back in. It's like one of these things, because it's like, it's a heavy tune, it's got a punk component to it.
Yeah.
And it just has this fun thing, or a song like Never Satisfied. We play like a song, Ignorance is Bliss. We play Ignorance is Bliss a lot. And that song changes for us too. But when we come back to a Never Satisfied, it's interesting how the vibe of it, how it fits in a set, and will change the context of other tunes around it. So that's the other thing too. These tunes really have they're like a living conversation. Like we play Cult all the time. And it's interesting, it's one tune that it's always exciting to play. It's when you hear when I hear Malcolm X's voice, it really sets the tone about the mission that we went on from the very beginning. Like we did something where Malcolm X's voice showed up on American radio at one point every day. And that alone was a sense of a mission accomplished.
Yeah, man. And I noticed just from you playing stuff live or I said, I guess cult will take as an example, but you'll hit like thematic ideas in your solo, but depending on the night, it's just so spontaneous. And it's, man, I heard you do some crazy arpeggio, like it was almost like a picked, like it should have been swept, but it was a picked arpeggio sequence. Yeah. And I was like, I never heard you do that before in that particular moment. And I think that's something that's so cool about you guys. It's, you really are artists.
Believe me, neither did we.
But that's so cool, man, because you're just kind of responding to the particular moment. That's what it's all about, right?
Well, that's what it's about.
I mean, part of the thing is, like a lot of times, man, you see a band and they play and they're exciting, but the things you hear are the same. Like the solos are the same. Everything is the same. The way songs are set up, the things that people say to set up a song are the same. And that's the opposite. See, we really came from a kind of jazz, blues, funk culture. That's kind of the thing that formed us. So like the whole, also it's an experiential culture. That means that, you know what, anything can happen. Like we've had shows that start out, oh man, we've done this thing where shows start out mad strong. Show starts out mad strong. It's dope. Who let the herd out the gate? And about 5 tunes in, we're like,
it was a lovely day, but you could say everything went a little bit. It went downhill.
It was like, yeah, and then other times we'll do a show where you start out, and all of a sudden it'll just we'll hit something, and the whole show will start to go like this. You know what I mean? I much prefer the latter than the former, but both things happen. Yeah. And we've had shows that were Godhead, and we've had shows of who did it and ran. And that's the reality of living your life. And I understand that the culture of metal and the culture of hard rock, their cultures of that really it's like nothing is left to chance and everything is boom.
Yeah.
But our lives have never been that. As right. I mean, and not to put it on the African American thing, but our lives have never really been that. Our lives have always been this thing. We get a phone call and be destroyed. Or, you know what? Somebody can say, yo, man, such and such is happening. Sly Stone's playing downtown. What? You run out and the whole, you know what I'm saying? That's the way our lives have been. And that is the soundtrack of our American lives. That's the point. And that's the thing that we want to tell people. Anything can happen to you. You can, it's what you do with it next. What you do next. You break a string. Oh, shit, you're on live TV. Then I got to hold the tremolo arm and hope for the best. You know what I mean? And those are the kind of things. Oh, yeah. Will Dunn put his foot through the kick drum. Oh, shit. You know what I mean? And then, you know what I mean? And those are the kind of things. Those are the things, Corey's done. He's in the back of the hall. Everything's out of sync. What we gonna do? He's coming back. We're good. Those are the kind of things that he's caught. This is okay. He's on the top of the speak. This is the day he gonna break his neck now. And then he manages to come off. And those are the things. And when we're in a chord sync, when we're 1-4. When 4, it's like we're like one thing. We become one thing.
That's awesome, guys. These living callers been more than gracious, giving us an hour and a half here. I mean, we touched on pretty much everything. Again, it's very rare that I can say that I'm working with a band or I'm in the presence of a band that are true artists, but these guys are artists in every sense of the word. They've always spoken their mind. They've always had iconic style, written iconic songs, and they're still making great music. And they're cool people on top of everything else, which again, like I said, doesn't always happen all the time in the music industry, but their humility is definitely something to really look up to. And I am very honored again to have hosted you guys for this chat. Thank you so much for giving me your time. This is Christian signing off. And then this is Living Color. If you guys want to tell everyone where they can follow you or give a sign off, feel free.
Well,
Yeah, livingcolor.com. Check livingcolor.com, and you can check Instagram for individual things, for Vernon's photographs, or some new music that's coming out, etc. And stay low. You know, all I can tell people is to stay low and be safe, and hopefully with the right kind of investment in the kind of future that we want to have, that we can implement that, a positive one. Anyway.
you know, I want to say thank you to Eventide for being supportive of the band for many years, for making great products. Thank you for this Quarantide thing. I want to say condolences to the company because people have gotten sick and there have been losses, and we want to give you our sincere condolences to your family of the company for what y'all are going through. We really believe in what y'all do, and we love it. So we want to say thanks for that.
Thank you, Vernon.
Yep.
Chime in on that. I want to thank Brother Ray, all my nieces,
Brother Ray.
all my nieces and nephew, Tony, Richard, for all the things you've done for Vernon and I to continue to compete on stage with different sounds.
Anthony Agnello, yes.
On the real tip, you know, I've been using Eventide products since 1974, the rack gear, and it's been a journey. I can't thank you enough for what you've done for the Wimbish Music Festival that we do. You've always supported us, but most right now, thank you for having Living Color on now, because right now we're living in some very, very deep times. So thank you for supporting us, and we'll always support you.
Thank you so much. And Corey and Will, nice to finally meet you on here.
Okay, no problem, dude. No, hey, thanks to Vernon and the Doug introduced me to the gear. So you know, that's the good thing about having bandmates that are also gadget nerds. You know, you can
drummer with a pedal board.
Vernon's basement.
All I can say is you've given me stuff to trip over. Thank you very much.
I apologize. Vernon, your basement, it's like the Predator, dude. He you know how he hunts and he keeps all skulls from all over the place. You have every piece of gear from the last 30 years. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
At least one.
That's the way.
I think I saw two, but I won't comment.
Whatever it is, he brings it with him.
Yeah, well, please send an H9000 to Mr. Wimbish's address so I can compete with Vernon Reid. All right, let's be honest about H9000.
Okay.
Doug Wimbish. No, I'm only kidding, y'all. Make sure it goes in the right hands. Guys and gals, we love you.
All right, take care. Thanks, man. Thanks
so much. It's great.
Thank you.
Take care.
Christian signing off.
All right.